Okay, so as I have said, again, Grenada politics, not my forte. And I am an international politics man and current events. But ever so often, a friend or someone may send me a bit of clip from Grenadian politics, and I may see it necessary to comment on what is going on. And some people may encourage me to make a video or make some comments. And I've recently received a video, and I thought that it was pretty interesting. So it's something I like to comment on. And that has to do with the succession in the NNP party. Now, I looked at that video, and one thing is clear is that the current leader of the NNP party, Dr. Keith Mitchell, is morbidly terrified about the succession of the party. And in particular, based on what he has said in that video clip, that he's even more terrified about who becomes the leader of the NNP party. So the question is he justified in being concerned? So we're going to take a look at what he has said, and we're going to have some discussions about it. But before we delve into the actual video, I want to make some observations that I've seen locally in politics in Grenada. And from my vantage point here, I also want to give you a little background about certain things that will make things a lot clearer so you can understand the context. So let's talk about political doctrine and political policy. So generally, you have extreme left policies and you have extreme right policies. And in between that, you have a middle ground, people who are just like middle of the way in terms of not too left, not too right. But you also have what you call center left, means that they're leaning to the left, but they're still trying to find some sort of middle ground. And then you have center right parties. So locally, NDC can be categorized as a center left party. These parties tend to have leftist ideology, sometimes bordering on communist ideology or social democrat policies. And at the same time, they may even extend into liberal policies. So it gets a little confusing. But generally, NDC we categorize as a center-left party and would have alliances internationally with other center-left parties. So it's no mystery, for example, that NDC is allied with the St. Lucia Labour Party because they tend to have this, similar doctrine. Now, these center-left parties and leftist parties now, interestingly, internationally are generally allied with the Democrat Party in the United States. So you will see that a lot of the policies that the Democrat Party in the United States have, that those policies will be easily embraced by an NDC party. Now, NNP would be described politically as a center-right party. And again, certain international alliances will reflect that indeed they're a center-right party, and they would ally themselves with more conservative parties internationally and may have some sort of alliance with, let's say, probably the Republican Party in the United States. Now, the people who vote for these parties a lot of times don't understand the different political platforms that they voted for. So someone may vote for NDC and they probably have a conservative outlook, but they may like an NDC candidate or they may like an NDC leadership. And sometimes their personal values may not entirely coincide with the values and the political platform of the party. So that's why it is important that when someone votes, someone should understand what political platform that they're voting for. It's the same thing with the NNP. Some people may vote for the NNP because they like the leadership of the NNP or they like a certain candidate in the NNP. But their personal values may not necessarily coincide with conservative values. and that's where things get complicated. So if you vote for NNP and an NNP gets into power and institutes policies that reflect their center-right platform, then you're like, oh my God, I didn't vote for that. That's where the problem comes. So some people have voted for the NDC and say, oh, well, I didn't know they was going to implement liberal values, or I didn't know they were going to implement center-left values. but that's what you voted for. That's why it's critical, again, as I said, to understand what you're voting for. It happens in the United States. For example, you have people who are conservative people. They don't believe in a lot of the platforms of the Democrat Party. Yet still, they will vote for the Democrat Party. There are people who are totally anti-abortion, but yet still will vote for the Democrat Party because they may like a Kamala Harris candidate. But when you think about it, their personal values do not coincide with the values of the Democrat Party. I know it's kind of like, contradicting, but it's kind of weird. But that's how it works sometimes. There are people who are not very conservative, but they will vote for Donald Trump because they like a Donald Trump, or they may like certain policies that he may have. Anyway, enough. I think you guys understand the center-left and the center-right parties. So NDC, a center-left party. NNP, a center-right party. Now, I want you to understand that depending on the leadership that comes into the NNP party, this will affect politics in Grenada for decades to come. And I want you to understand the reason why Keith Mitchell might be very concerned is that he is afraid that possibly if a certain candidate wins, then the whole political platform and doctrine of the NNP party could change. Because if that person is the leader of the NNP party, then they have the power to influence policy, platform, and political doctrines of the NNP. So what you could see is that NNP party being transformed from a center-right party to a center-left party. Because if you look at the political history of the person that obviously we understand who Keith Mitchell is actually talking about. Because if you look at the person that Dr. Keith Mitchell is making reference to in his statements, as he says, he ain't calling no name, but we all understand who he's talking about. And if you look at the political history of that person, you will realize the association with the over 40 years ago socialist Marxist PRG government. So that person is not a center-right, and it's quite obvious politically that that person is not center-right. Look at their history. They've been associated with the then PRG government, which was pretty much a leftist party. And then they were associated with the NDC party, which again, as we said, is center-left. And for whatever reason and whatever falling outs that may have taken place, they ended up in the new National Party, which is a center-right party. So it may have been political expediency or convenience. We don't know. But I have a strange feeling that doctrinally, political policy, the person's political history and mentality is definitely not center-right, not conservative, but still doctrinally embraces a more leftist, center-left policy. So hence the reason why, if you were a Dr. Keith Mitchell, you will be terrified of what's going on in the party you work so hard to create. So let's say that that person happens to win the leadership of the NNP, which indeed has become more likely with the withdrawal of one of the candidates that was vying for the leadership of the party. Dwight Housford has actually withdrawn. What do you have? And that's what I'm talking about when I say things, political things can be affected in Grenada for decades to come. What you will find happening if that person uses their political leadership to transform the NNP party into a center-left party also, which they will have the power to do because they'll be the leader of the party, then what you will see happening is that the electorate in Grenada, or the voters in Grenada, will not really have a choice in terms of policy difference between NDC and NNP. You will have basically two center-left parties. So you pretty much will have a one-party state of sorts. And that is the reason why Dr. Keith Mitchell, as I've said, is morbidly terrified that that particular person will have the leadership of the party. Not just that, but Dr. Keith Mitchell is also concerned about his legacy. As he has said, the hard 40 years of work that he has put in to that party, towing the line of a center-right party. And just imagine, you've worked 40 years to build a party, right? And you've done so well, won how many elections. And all of a sudden, all of this is just taken away from you. And then you have to leave the party knowing that everything you've worked for has been destroyed or could be destroyed. That is not a good feeling. As he said, and you will see in the clip, he wants to stay at home and relax and know that the party is in good hands. He was also specific about the leadership or new leadership of the party coming from the bowels of the party. Obviously, he doesn't think that particular person comes from the bowels of the party because, as we have said, that person came in to the NNP party. So Dr. Keith Mitchell finds himself in a very uncomfortable state and feeling towards his transition of leadership. I also want to point out, and you may understand if you know a little bit about the political history of Grenada and you're, a little grown, you have to understand the people who are associated with the PRG government. Time has passed and they've actually bid their time well. They've actually been very patient. And what you see, and I've made that observation, politically, they have majorly infiltrated the NDC party. If you know who they are, you know who they are. And you realize, in some respect, Dr. Keith Mitchell uses the word hijack. And those people, in some respects, quote unquote, has hijacked the NDC party. And I'm especially aware of that from my vantage point. So imagine how tragic it will be for Dr. Keith Mitchell to see that his party becomes, quote unquote, hijacked by leftist or center-left leaning people. So one thing is clear, that particular person, no matter how much and how hard they've tried to shake their associations with the then PRG government, it's proven extremely difficult, even after 40 years. When you look at the video, you'll see the references. It's amazing, to play on words. Dr. Keith Mitchell is not using those words, accidentally or coincidentally. He's specifically using those words. He talks about a rescue mission. That he says Grenada needs a rescue mission. So, of course, he's alluding to the 1983 rescue mission. And then he even talked about Morris Bishop. And he said Morris Bishop didn't talk. And for that, he lost his life. So we'll look at the clip and I'll make some comments as we go along looking at the clip.
We have a rescue mission to perform. Listen to me carefully. A mission that requires dedication, commitment, and a steady head, sisters and brothers, and a stable hand. You hear me? So I sound an alarm today. And we want steady hands on board to care for that rescue mission. There are those, sisters and brothers, who seek to divide our party. Said, I don't believe we must hide anything. We have to talk. Morris hid a lot of things and he faces death.
Now there is that reference to Morris Bishop. And he says Morris hid a lot of things and he faced his death. That's serious business. He's implying that he's, seriously threatened in his own party. Or it may be an attempt to smear that particular individual who is vying for leadership of the party.
Keith Mitchell ain't going down that road. There are those who seek to divide our party and our country with underhand maneuverings, funding media platforms of individuals to attack and spread propaganda on the NNP and its leadership.
So the question is there a political crisis in the NNP party? Is Keith Mitchell paranoid? Or is there some legitimate concern of a coup of sorts taking place in the NNP party?
Sisters and brothers, we are not in this for selfish means for power. I want to sound an alarm today again, sister, but within the new national party. That new national party will not be hijacked by anyone whatsoever. You hear me? This new national party will not be hijacked by anyone whatsoever. I've been in around this party for 40 years. And convention coming, we've never gone to people coming and tell me how people coming to them and asking them to pay them money to vote for them in convention. We never had that before. Where this thing come from? Where this thing come from? Where this thing come from? Paying people to come and vote in a convention? Man, God, are you crazy? And you want Keith Mitchell to keep his mouth shut? I go talk. Question the motives of those who continually attack and push propaganda about the party's leadership. You must question that. If you are an NNP sympathizer, how could you be attacking the leadership of the party? Choops.
I just love the semantics, you know. The doc is a real showman. I like that.
This party will not be destroyed by a few persons who do not truly care about the NNP and Grenada. Get it right. Our party has had hostile attacks before from both inside and outside. We had the A-team before who wanted to take over the NNP, and they were soundly beaten on the NNP convention in McDonald College in 1994. The NNP convention will come, and anyone try to do anything against the best interests of the party would be soundly beaten once again by the new national party.
Well, we do understand that was 1994, and people's mentality might have been entirely different. You have a new generation of people, and together with the impact of social media and the mass psychosis that has taken place and propagated by the Democrat Party in the United States, people's whole political concept and mentality has been transformed. And I would say for the better or the worse, but I believe it is for the worse. So, I'm sorry, Doc, but you've got to prepare yourself that the outcome may not be entirely what you want. And I'm basing this on, what I've seen happening in the world and the ability of the Democrat Party in the United States to influence and impact people's political mentality across the world. I mean, these people are pretty cunning, and a lot of people have been transformed, to their own detriment by the propaganda that is spewed by the Democrat Party in the United States. But I also trust the judgment of a gentleman, Kennedy Bulldog. This guy is actually, I find he's very intellectually honest, and it's pretty interesting that he will have kind things to say about a particular individual who is vying for leadership of the party, knowing their history. The problem is, are there any other viable candidates within the NNP party to actually offer some sort of challenge to that particular individual? And if there is other viable candidates, then hey, time is just really creeping up quite quickly. I mean, to mount a campaign and show people in the party that, hey, that they are indeed viable and they have what it takes to take the party forward. Now let's listen to what Kennedy Bulldog has to say.
He believes the future of the NNP leadership lies with David for varying reasons.
The only person I see to replace Dr. Mitchell at the present time is Peter David, because of the likability factor, because of the international contact, because of the national appeal, you understand? And in politics, you have to get people to like you. Gary get people to like him. Bishop get people to like him. Kit Mitchell, Dr. Mitchell get people to like him. Peter David get people to like him. So the likability factor is of paramount importance. You can have someone people have respect for, but they don't like. People will vote for Dr. Mitchell and NNP. People will vote for Peter David and NNP. People used to vote for Gary and GULP. So you need that likability factor. And if you look at the NNP now, the only person with the likability factor outside of Dr. Mitchell is Peter David.
The NNP has provided a training ground for aspiring politicians, particularly women and youth.
Well, it seems pretty interesting that Dr. Mitchell would say that, because if there was actually a training ground, there should not be, at this present time, difficulty in finding many viable candidates. Then there probably would not have been a concern that that particular individual could possibly inherit the leadership of the party, which obviously Dr. Mitchell himself does not really want that individual to inherit the leadership of the party. So I guess sometimes when there is leadership that tends to concentrate power within themselves, and there's sometimes, for whatever reason, there's not that modeling and tutoring of people within the party, because maybe there be some sort of concern of, somebody taking over their position. Then this is what happens. So you have a situation now where within the party, where are the viable candidates? You have someone who has entered the party, bid their time well, build a structure within the party, and support, as Kennedy Bullitt has said, within the party, that now may seem like a very, if not the only viable candidate. So you guys probably know better than I. Probably there are others out there who, within the party structure, might get the votes to take them or have them ascend into the leadership of the party. We'll see.
I came through the NNP and I part of that training ground. I gained a lot of training and knowledge from those who were there before and learned a lot, sisters and brothers. Without fear, sisters and brothers, a child from this noble political training school, sisters and brothers, a child from this noble NNP training school who has been in the belly of the NNP, who knows and experiences the highs and lows of this party. Someone who has the leadership skills. Someone who has genuine love for people. Someone who is selfless in service. Someone who comes from the belly and the bowels of the new National Party. Will lead this party while I can relax at home and watch in peace. It's only a child of the house can truly appreciate and represent what it means to be a true NNP, because they know no other way but the NNP way, sisters and brothers.
Well, sadly, Doc, it just seems like a outside child might inherit the reins of the party, not someone from the bowels of the party.
Who have walked this road for many years are here to provide the mentorship and support to the younger generation of leaders. I should be part of that mentorship team. And one person one day, as I said, sooner than later, will rise to the top.